do you do this for?
Welcome to outing ourselves in public with Corey Cachal and Jimmy D, where we have CPA Bette Hochberger, who's going to talk Corey through his potential saving grace or imminent failure.
Yeah, we're going to do it today. So I wanted to have Bette on. Hey, I don't know, Bette. I think we told you we're giving you land. If not,
I was all excited, and I'm like, what do I do with it?
Yeah, with that, and this is the story, right? We'll get some gratitudes up and play around in there, just sort of give you some ideas. But I mean, this is basically to introduce you to our community, right?
Yeah.
And just to give people the TLDR, Bette is kind of local to Miami, even more to kind of where I live, which we didn't know or whatever. And I was looking around for like an accountant to help me figure out how to make sense of being a degenerate for a year on the Wax blockchain, which is not
That's my specialty, degenerate.
Good. And really, and so trying to, piecing it together, like I knew I was going to need, I can't just go to like HR and block and be like, hey, do you guys know what the Wax blockchain is? Right. They would probably just start crying. Anyway, so, we were talking that stuff through and obviously Bette, you've been extremely helpful, and we're going to figure out how to get all the data from the chain and do all the things and blah, blah, blah. We're figuring all that stuff out. And then of course we managed to actually land the uplift. We're going to turn it into a DAO. We're actually still going to be doing, our accounting and, paying our taxes like a U.S. company and. So it just made sense for us to work with you for that as well. So like we introduced our lawyers who came in and they got some land, which was really fun. And now, we're going to, introduce everyone to you as well, Bette. So thanks for coming up.
Awesome. I'm excited. Nobody else has gifted me land before.
Right? It's pretty rare.
Real or virtual. It doesn't matter.
That's awesome. All right. So one of our traditions, we'll just get this out of the way right now, I think.
Oh, God.
Okay. We have a giant monument where we put up gratitudes every time somebody comes on the show.
I think it's hilarious that she said, oh, God, because it all started, with Cathedral 1.0 and moved to Cathedral 2.0. And
there wasn't very many gods there, but so this is actually right next to the tower now. So we're going up to NFT NYC pretty soon, Bette.
Cool.
I'm actually headed up in a few days. And some good friends of ours built a version of Times Square in the uplift.
Wow.
And while we're up there, we're going to have Jen on a laptop taking selfies with people. And so it's all like going to be selfies, and company logos are going to be on all the billboards in here.
Oh, that's super cool.
By the time we're done. Yeah. So this is just going to be nuts. Of course, NFT the movie, some friends of ours or whatever. Anybody that wants to buy some UDT or some Upliftium can just free frame that and grab those. So anyway,
I mean, and what could you do with Upliftium? Like an obscene amount of Upliftium. What could you potentially do with it? I mean, there might happen to be a DAO proposal that you guys all want to check out and vote on, and an article that I'll drop in the comments that you might want to read and
there you go.
Share out, because like billions and billions and billions.
All the billions.
2 more billions. They might just raise worlds into existence. We don't know yet.
Right? Yeah. So I bet we were on a show a few days ago. The Upliftium is our in-game currency, right? So you earn it by wandering around, and anytime anybody walks over your land, you earn Upliftium, that kind of thing, right? So we're just kind of shooting the shit on the show. We're like, man, what would happen if we sold off a 1 kilometer map? Which is like relatively small, but that's like the maps we're launching on Ethereum for 5 billion Upliftium. And for context, to our entire community, we distribute 2.3 billion a month, right? So like you're gonna have to get the entire distribution of Upliftium that goes out in a couple of months from the rest of these people, right? Not that this is like designed specifically to see how much we can jack the price of Upliftium, but it's going to have some kind of effect, right? So that DAO proposal, I wanted to kind of see what would happen. I'd never actually done a DAO proposal before, so I whipped one up and basically just in like a Google Doc or whatever, right? And I threw that Google Doc at the community and just say, hey, listen, this is open to literally everybody. Here's just kind of the basic thing we talked about on the show. What do you guys think? And over 10 minutes, it got 100 times better. Like details and questions I hadn't thought of, and like to me, it was like the the perfect sort of exercise in I mean, the main thing we want to do with this DAO is to capture that community spirit that has been a huge part of the Uplift success so far, right? Like, everyone's just really into it, and they all have opinions, and they all want to, you know, be part of that process. And it, you know, it's getting like, I think 99% voting on the final version of it now or whatever. So I mean, it's gonna pass, but it's been a really fun exercise. And so, you know, if you should want to buy a planet, albeit a small one, it'll cost you 5 billion upliftium. And you know, that's the whole joke, right? Good luck getting it, because I think there's probably about on Alcor.exchange, the main exchange on Wax. And in all the NFTs, because you could, of course, you know, buy Upliftium as NFTs as well. There's maybe, Jimmy, is there like even 1.5B out there?
Yeah, I think we were talking about this on the happy hour. There might have been at one point, you know, maybe two, but like we burned a lot, you know, or people burned a lot for the DAO token drop, right? So
yep.
That's all gone. What I like about it is the community, you know, initiative where a bunch of people came in and they're just like, yeah, like we're gonna do this, and like we're gonna do it as a community. So like I have no idea how long this is gonna take. It's an achievable goal. I mean, I think it's achievable before the next bull run. Like I think like, well, it's 2 years really from now. Yes, right?
It's probably achievable. I mean, the real question, because in the proposal, you know, part of the way people are getting these Uplift DAO tokens is, other than buying them, and everyone should go do that, is, you know, we're airdropping. We airdropped, I think, was it 15% of the total to people that hold lands, but then also to people that had used Upliftium, and that, you know, the main way you use it is to kind of burn it for picture installs, whatever, right? So we decided in the proposal that this 5 billion, if somebody gets it before we do the next drop, because we're going to drop about 10%, the remainder to you know, landholders and DAO, they're basically to Upliftium users, burners, whatever. So you could burn 5 billion Upliftium and get like just a stupid amount of DAO tokens from that. So even just from that, like, yeah, you get a piece of land. But if you get this done before then, you're going to end up getting DAO tokens that are going to be they're going to be worth bank. I'm just going to say it. It's probably illegal, but fuck it. This isn't financial advice. Something. So Bette, welcome to our tradition of gratitude. It's just a thing we do. I still remember when I told Jimmy we were going to do this every show, and he's like, no, we shouldn't do it. It's dumb. That lasted a couple days, and he's like, he agrees now. It's been a year and a half. I still make that joke.
Traditions are nice, I think.
They are. You know? And I mean, really, like, so we'll put gratitudes up here, but like this whole building is freaking full, right?
That's awesome.
Yeah, I didn't say it was dumb. I just said I don't think this is the place for it. We're like a crypto, you know, we're a crypto metaverse. Like, we're a crypto YouTube channel, and like, you know, we want to dive into people to talk about crypto, and that was then, and this is now, and now we're, you know, a metaverse on its way to, you know, bootstrapping the hell out of Web 3.0. And what comes next? It's interesting, you know, because like, if you don't know me, you do now. I like to go off on little tangents, but like one of the tangents that I kind of want to start with is I was just thinking about it, right? Looking at this beautiful office, as Corey was introducing you, you know, sitting the backdrop there. You know, out on the harbor. Like, I'm assuming it's real. Either that or the green screen is like blowing in the fan wind. I'm not really sure because I can see the leaves and stuff moving, right? But it's pretty cool.
Really moves, yeah.
like, and I was thinking about, like, it's really interesting to ponder, because Corey, you put out a tweet the other day, something about Shopify, right? Like on the Uplift, right? Like, what does Shopify Web 3 look like, right? Like, what does this business model look like where people can actually walk into the shops and get it, right? And now I'm thinking, like, you know, Bette, you run a real world business. When was the last time that somebody like actually came and visited you at the office, or gave you a phone call that you actually got paid for that, right? Like, there's no more free consulting. You walk into the plot, right? On the Uplift, and you know, you get rewarded in tokens for presence of place, which I think is really interesting. So I'm really happy that you're here. I've heard amazing things. I don't know that much about you personally, and we've never met, but I just love the fact that, like, we're introducing people like you that have real world businesses that are like excited to give you gifted land, virtual or not, as you put it. So I'm grateful for Bette, for meeting Bette.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I'm grateful for talking to you guys because so my background's actually in engineering, right? Not computers, different what I jokingly refer to as real engineering. But I haven't touched that in more years than I am going to admit in reality. But we've been working with a lot of tech companies for years and years and years, right? It's a great affinity for me. I have the tech background, tech accountant, tech companies need accountants. It was just like a beautiful kind of whatever coming of areas of interest together. And the whole Web3 scene is really just the next step, right? Like when the Web2 stuff really kind of exploded, I was a little young. I wasn't like out in the workforce, but I remember being on the user end of it and how exciting. Like, do you remember going to websites where if you just left something open, they would pay you, right? Like this is the new version of that. So I think it's exciting to be so involved, even if I'm not like personally building the things, just seeing what other people are coming up with in this space is just so fascinating. So I really appreciate being able to be sort of a partner in it, you know, even if it's on the compliance and keep you out of jail with the IRS and things like that. But I still feel like, you know, it's my contribution to
You do know that's one of the most important parts that we
Right?
kind of be screwed out with.
Somewhere between essential and like essential. Well, and this is, I think, one of the other things too. Like I've talked to a couple people that have kind of, you know, that have done their taxes on Wax. This is like one of my low key reasons for you know, wanting to make sure everyone knows that you guys exist. Right? If you guys can help me with my taxes, you're gonna be able to help anyone on Wax. Because like I'm, you know, one of the dumber cases out there. And by dumber, I mean this is like just more active, right? Like I was into literally everything. There's like 18 trillion microtransactions for like almost no reason.
Yeah. We see a lot of that. We do.
Okay, fair enough. So it's not just
like,
me.
Look, here's 20 pages of a PDF of transactions, and the total is like a loss of $22. That's like, really? How did you even do that?
Right. I mean, man, that's. I hope it's only 22 pages. Yeah, I mean, like, we won't print anything out. Like I like trees too much to
digital paper.
You know. Yeah. To print anything out. But yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of other people that you know need what you guys do, and it'll be awesome for me to be able to refer people to you, knowing that okay, like if you guys can handle me, you're going to be able to handle basically anything on you know, any of the blockchains that we get on. So that's going to be fun.
Remember that Wax walk of fame that you guys put in?
Yeah.
I would love to see like some hidden underground like that nobody knows the existence of. That's just like basically Corey's spreadsheet of the first year of Wax transactions. Walk along and you can read it. It's just picture image on picture image on.
Oh
picture
God,
image.
no!
That can come in and she can do your taxes by walking in game. You know, tracking them like through on the yellow brick road. It'll be great.
That's scary.
Hey, that might be how, you know, you really Web3 accounting is going to be like.
I mean, right? They used to do scrolls back in ancient Greece, right? They used to open them up and spring them out and roll them out on the floor. They just didn't walk on them because you would smudge the ink. We have the ability now in the Uplift to be able to walk on them, and then won't smudge the ink. It's great.
Yeah. So I just had a total mind fart. I had an idea and then it went away because TC was just saying she should make an I Will Do Your Taxes NFT, which actually is a really good idea.
I've been trying to figure out how to really incorporate something NFT into my industry. And the closest I've gotten is to solve the IRS identity theft problem. I don't know how you implement it, but I'm like, if you just like, if everyone's an NFT, you're never going to have a problem again with IRS identity theft. But I don't know how to build that. I don't know who you sell that to. Like, I don't have any connections in the White House.
Like scaling that is a little hard. And this is what I would tell, you know, TC's the one who made that suggestion. You know, start small. You've got a product, sell it as an NFT tomorrow. Because like we know people. It's easy to do, right? Like that, especially on Wax. Like on OpenSea, it's going to cost you $18 trillion to set up the account, and like there, it's transaction fees, and you could do it, right? Especially and at some point you should do it, because especially with the concierge service, there's people there that need you as well, right? And so, if you're spending a couple of grand, the $30 for transaction fees, not really, who cares, right?
Yeah.
But having something that is available for $500 or whatever, to sell an NFT for $500, it's like the consulting whatever package thing or whatever. We boot that up on an NFT. I get you whitelisted on Nifty. We could literally have those on sale for tomorrow. Now you're in it, right? And then
All
we
you
iterate.
need is an artist to get it to put together like a modern age version of a get out of jail free card from Monopoly. That can be the NFT business card.
Right?
That can't be hard. I know plenty of artists I can make that happen.
Right? Even this is the thing, right? Like the IRS is slow, but they are coming. And like anybody who thinks they could just like, no, these stuff I can just hide. No.
You cannot hide.
It won't happen. So we might as well start thinking about it now.
Well, I'm curious, like, so for people who might not know, like, what is CPA, and what how is this why is this important, especially in the US? Question number 2. And question number 3, does it really matter where in the US you are? If you're in the US, are you pretty much screwed when it comes to taxes? Like, I'm not in the US, so like, but different states have different rules and regulations. Maybe if you could just give a quick once over of what people need to know, because Corey's right. Like when they come, they're probably going to come, and a lot of people are going to be like, "Well, you didn't come last year, and I was fine, and now you're busting me, right?" Like it's like, dude,
Yeah. Well, okay. So I like to talk about when people tell me how they don't need to report their crypto and the government's never going to find them, blah blah blah. Do you remember Swiss bank accounts? Do you remember when those were like a thing and you could like hide stuff there? Yeah. So at one point, the US government was like, hey, this isn't cool because there are people who are tax evading. And they're like, Credit Suisse, give us all your records. Like Americans, and I might be getting the details not 100% correct, but they went and turned over those records. And now suddenly these Swiss bank accounts where you could hide your fortune, well, now the IRS had all that information, and then they found you. And you got into a lot of trouble because people weren't declaring their foreign assets, and they weren't declaring their foreign bank accounts. And the penalties on that stuff has gotten astronomical, right? Wow. So whenever someone's like, oh, they're never going to find me, they're going to find you. I mean, unless you're like really, really, really good at kind of hiding your tracks and hiding your own identity. I read an article not that long, like in the last month, in Wired magazine about someone who built software to scrape like blockchain to find like child predators and things like that. It's like, well, if they were able to find you for that, you know what that means? The IRS is going to find you.
The freaking the Russian troll farm from the last season, whatever, all that shit, right? Like they indicted them all. You know how they caught them? Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Like, and if you're a Russian hacker, meet me at camera 1. If you're using fucking Bitcoin and you think you're fucking hiding, like you're a shitty hacker. You're a shitty hacker. Whatever. I get right. Super, because like anyone, like I'm not that smart. I know that a blockchain is a public ledger. Like,
right, public ledger.
It's in the name.
Unless you can really, really, really hide who you are, and maybe there's a couple people out there who I don't know how to do things like that. Like,
yeah.
Well, so I think
even still, like the all the different, there's tumblers, there's different ways that you can try and sort of wash it or anonymize you're part of that blockchain. No one's doing that in the general use of all these things, generally speaking, right?
Yeah.
And even then, I don't think that like there's ways that people at the NSA, certainly, like people that are accomplished at looking at these things are going to be able to spot that, especially when people start analyzing different patterns, like you were saying, as far as like looking at looking after or finding child predators, whatever. Right, like these things are only going to get easier. It's just data. It can be analyzed, and sooner or later, it's going to get tracked back to a bunch of different points where you touch the real world, and it's done. And so for nerds like us that are not going to assume that Monero is going to handle all of our problems or use any of these tumblers or whatever, right? It's all just on there. It's literally just like having your accounting books in public.
Yeah,
right.
Totally.
And again, the IRS is super freaking slow. but why don't we get on the right side of it now? Because I mean, this is the future, right? And we get all the benefits of being on the blockchain and being in Web3 and being able to have digital assets that we can own and trade and do all these different things that really are expanding the possibilities of what we can do in this world. It's just pay your fucking taxes.
Well, and I think part of the problem is the fact that like the legislative bodies, especially in the U.S. and in other countries, they're not really that good at keeping ahead of the curve when it comes to like mandates and stuff like that, right? Like so you get two groups of people. You get these like
the millennia.
Yeah, right.
You get the one group of people who thinks that they're geniuses because they can hide their assets and they can do it, and you get the other group of people who are like, well, I'll just ignorance is bliss, essentially, right? So I would imagine that the ones that are hiding things and trying to scheme their way out of various things, eventually those are the ones that are going to get hit hard, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, my guess is that you're a stand-up person because you're working with us, and so your kind of focus is more on keeping people out of trouble, by keeping them informed, by making sure that they are not screwing themselves through the ignorance play, right? Not necessarily trying to set up shelter companies or something overseas, right? So what is exactly that your company does, and how can you help the average Joe or Joyce get through this world being only semi-detectable by the powers that be?
So there's been an explosion this year with the crypto taxes. I've had a couple clients in the past that had some stuff. It wasn't overwhelming. This year, it was like someone opened the floodgates. And what I've actually seen is the people who think it was before him even. And he's not even the worst.
That I want to meet the worst. Like I don't
know that they want to be outed like that.
we haven't scraped my data yet. Like when you see this, and again, like it's all above board, but it's ridiculous.
Well, so what I've found is a lot of times people, first off, if you were buying in a couple years ago, right, it didn't occur to people that they needed to keep track of that information. If you're used to like fiat world, you're buying stocks and bonds, things like that, you don't really have to keep track of much at this point.
So what's your cost basis? And nobody has it.
But even
information at that time wasn't even that bad, really, right? Because you would buy crypto, you would sell crypto. There wasn't like clicking a freaking button every day to get an airdrop or an NFT or all of these like randomized things, right? I'm not making fun of you. I'm just like pointing it out, right? Like
no, that's the scary.
But the thing is, there's so many people that cannot get that information now. Whether they were on something that doesn't exist anymore or something that doesn't operate in this country, or they just were like, oh, I closed the account and it never occurred to me to go pull that information because I would need it in 5 years to do my taxes. It wasn't something that anybody was thinking about, especially if you're really early adopter. So what I'm seeing is a lot of people are coming to me and they're like, look, I know I needed to file this for the last couple of years. I didn't do it because I'm hiding. I didn't do it because I didn't know how the hell to go about doing it.
Right. And it's intimidating as hell. So like that I think that's the thing that makes the most sense to me. Right. Yeah. Like that, where do you even start?
A lot of people, it's not even a huge amount of money. They're just like clueless because like I said, if you buy stocks and bonds, you're getting those 1099s that report everything. Here's your interest for the year. Here's your dividends. Here's your royalties, here's whatever. It's all nice and neat and organized. It's usually correct. We have none of that regulation in this space, right? So it's like, it's good and bad. It's good because, hey, it's the Wild West. Look at all the cool stuff going on. Look at all the millionaires. There's just so much cool things.
I mean, not today. Today they've got like about enough for coffee, but.
Well, I mean, I've had clients that have made millions.
And really like the market's down right now and I think it's like bottoming, so the next 2-3
time
years
to buy.
Exactly 100%.
I don't give financial advice, by the way, but time to buy.
I mean, today, tomorrow,
I love
potentially for the
this isn't advice
potentially for the next year, right?
I don't give financial advice. Buy low, sell high. That's how
there you go. I mean, that's and if like buy low, sell high, it's just a thing people say. And it's low.
Exactly. So
No advice given.
But it could go lower.
Yeah.
It could, but
Right.
you know, it's that whole catching a falling knife thing. You
And
gotta
it might go to zero. I heard.
Wow.
4 or
Yeah,
5
this is
years
where
ago.
Bitcoin Obituaries is
8,
an
12
amazing
years
website.
ago.
Have you seen that, Bet?
No.
Oh my! Hold on, let me pull it up.
How many times Bitcoin's died according to the media?
Yeah,
Bitcoin's dead.
It's so fun. Yeah, they have a counter for the number of times that a credible news organization is called. It was actually just called 99bitcoins.com, and then there's way too many. So I see like 400 plus now.
I mean, I think it's
Bitcoin is dead. Bitcoin has died 452 times. These are all the times that I love it, like right at the top. He's like, Bitcoin's dead. Bitcoin will run out of greater fools. And granted, it did, and then it dropped. So it's like, fuck those people. But oh, it's gonna die. So many death. But like, you know, all time. This is Bitcoin's gonna die. It's definitely gonna die. Oh, it's gonna die. Still, it's gonna. Yeah, it's not gonna die. Yep. Anyway, so yeah, 99bitcoins.com, Bitcoin obituaries.
Nice.
It's very fun to send that to people around times like this.
Well, you know, and I think like there's maybe a sliver of truth in there. Like not big B Bitcoin is not necessarily going to die, but I think the last time I was talking to another like crypto professional, like an attorney or something, we were discussing there's like 19,000 currencies, something insane. I'm like, they can't all survive.
Right. Well, and Gary V, right? Gary V talks about this all the time, right? And I think it's true for NFT projects as well. 95+% of them are going to die. They're just going to go to zero.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like we've been granted access finally to being able to, as normal investors without $250,000, we have access to startups now. Right. And that's, to me anyway, that's what this is. Because I was staring at Twitter and Facebook when they were in their seed rounds. I'm like, I can't invest in these companies because I was a freaking guitar player, right? It's very annoying. Now we can do all the things, right? Now, granted, people need to get an education on what it's like to invest in startups. You know, you invest in 50, 49 of them are going to zero, right? Plan accordingly.
50.
Dude, we totally need like a crypto cemetery somewhere in the uplift. Like I've done it a couple times back in the old days, like when we first started with Genesis. So the world is like, you know, basically a 3-dimensional world. There's a bottom, there's a top, and there's rings around, you know, the outside. And like if you dig all the way to the bottom, you can actually fall out of the server. It's just like a black abyss of nothingness. And I kind of feel like somewhere we should just dig a hole to the bottom of the server and like put a little sign there for every crypto that's died. And like this is the place that you go to feel like the hodler that basically, you know, died holding their crypto to the bottom. And you just fall down that hole until the complete and utter blackness on the outside of it.
It's like.
And at the bottom of the uplift hole, there's a giant slime ball that shoots you up to the heavens because that's where we're headed.
So this is where I should mention that Jimmy's in Japan where it's late at night. Oh, man. Yeah. So I think focusing on the graveyard is a terrible idea. However,
but if the first one happened to be a Ripple graveyard and it just stopped at a glass plated bottom with a punch sign "Get Pickaxe," you would be down for sure. I know you.
Okay, maybe. Now, granted, I can't bitch about Ripple anymore. Like I did for a long time, up to and including creating a shitcoin that it's not dead. It refuses to die, but shipple halfway between shitcoin and Ripple as a joke. But yeah, I mean, Ripple and their fight with the SEC is giving us so much cover that I can't even bitch about them anymore. It's just like they genuinely, like, if you can't indict Ripple for being a security, then, you know, they're never going to get anyone. Which is probably not true for the record. This also isn't legal advice because I am not a lawyer.
Well, I mean, nothing is legal advice. It's funny because it's like, you know, I don't know, man. If I walk into a convenience store and there's a sign that says, you know, buy me, I taste delicious, I'm a chocolate bar. Do I sue the convenience store for like, you know,
False advertising.
False advertising. Yeah, I don't know. Like Corey's got a good point, but it's kind of ridiculous. So, but I'm curious, right? Like, do you do anything other than taxes and accounting? Like, do you advise companies who are creating, currencies, or do you advise companies who are creating projects? Like, how do you deal with that kind of business aspect of things? Like, is that in your plan as well?
So, yes and no. What I discovered long ago, especially working with a lot of tech startups, I have no concept of what is a good idea or not. Because
neither do we.
Like, that's a great idea. Business flops. Like, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard of. Business takes off. Right. I have no concept. So I tried to keep that in mind when I like help my business clients. It's like, let me look at numbers, right? We tie it all back to the accounting. So everything we do is based off of your books. We can't give you technology advice or things like that, but we can do things like, hey, here's some ideas on how to structure your business for tax efficiency, or, here, this is an attorney we work with. We'll work with your attorney to make sure we get you set up in the right structure for what you're trying to do. In the not crypto world, it's a lot easier because these things have been around for so long that, we just all know. We know, like, okay, you're, a doctor, here's what you're going to set up. You're a restaurant, here's what you're going to set up. When you get into the kind of Web3 space, it really is it depends. Like, what are you trying to do? What are you trying to build? It's a lot more complicated. But like, Corey, we've had these discussions, right? Like, you set up a DAO. What does that mean? What does that really, really mean? Like, what's going to happen with your taxes if you set it up that everyone literally has equity in the DAO? Like, is it you and 500 of your closest friends are now all going to get a K1 when you file taxes? Like, is that what you did? So a lot of it is, just these kind of high level, probably things that people don't want to think about. There's like, we're changing the world, which is great. And they are, but then we kind of have to like pull it back down to earth and be like, all right, but then, there's the IRS and there's the banks and there's the this and that and the investors and the owners and the everybody that we kind of have to deal with. So how does this work? So on the the crypto world, that's kind of where we are. We're also trying to help a lot with not crypto software, not the software you're building, not the software you're kind of living in the metaverse, but like, how are you putting together your books? Because you still have to put together books, sadly, right? Like, as painful as it is, and it is painful right now for anyone in the digital world. It is super painful because there's not a lot of options, right? It's like, are you going to recreate your own accounting system?
I called my mom the other day.
Have considered that,
right?
We talked about that, Corey. We talked about, are we going to create our own system?
Right, like that was a non-zero probability, and as it turns out, I mean, it makes well, and this is what Legend did, right? Our erstwhile partners, but I mean, I don't want to say they like taking giant piles of money and setting it on fire in the backyard, so I won't. However, like, they created an entire system like this.
There was an ice storm there one time. I mean,
the first thing we did was drop it. So. Because there's people that are just like better at doing this than trying to create some proprietary system. Now, granted, like, there's going to be demand enough that we could make that a plank of the DAO, frankly, and if we wanted to, and make that kind of happen. But it feels a lot better to me to get really high quality partners in the space, and have them do it so we can focus our focus.
Yeah,
I'm gonna get yelled out of the room on this, but like, I'm glad that people like you exist, Bette, because like here's the thing, like, people are always saying, oh, we're in it, because we believe in decentralization and government suck, and we shouldn't pay taxes. Well, A, if you're not paying taxes, then stop driving on the freaking roads that I pay for. B, B, I don't like governments, really. Like, I don't like, having to pay them off. I don't like, big banks and people who control our lives. But what I like a lot less is people who come in to the crypto space and try to pull one over on the people who are here trying to make a difference because they can, because there is no regulation, right? So I'm not like anti-crypto regulation, right? Like, I'm not like, this shouldn't be. I'm kind of anti crypto regulation now because they really suck at it. Like if they could just give us some guidelines and some ways around it, then I think that's where we get to the point where we make a difference, right?
I mean,
like
I would just like some standardized financial reporting. That would make my life so much easier.
Well, and this is where okay. So TC just said, is it possible to make a piece of software that one can enter your WAM address? Your software, scans the address and calculates all the taxes that are owed. Now, the simple answer to that is yes. The longer answer to that is like, I'm going to be running through and I'm going to be qualifying all the different transactions, right? So every time I claim from our planet, every time that I claim an our planet freaking mineral, like all those things are going to have to be, I'm going to have to go through and tell the accounting software, this is what this is, right? And then of course
which is what we do in fiat world anyway, by the way.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but once I've analyzed that system could be available for anyone. So then which I think is something that not only that, but like then, I don't know if I told you, Bette, we got accepted to the IBM accelerator, right? So we're going to
awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, it was, I'm not going to fucking lie. I hated doing the application. It's like, I think you kind of know me long enough now that like I'm super fascinated with business, but I'm fucking new. Like, I don't know what I'm doing at all. I'm making this shit up. Right. So like that whole application was like, you need a business degree to do this application. I'm like, what is a business profit unit? Fuck you. I don't want to understand. Anyway, I figured it out. And Jimmy, I don't think I told you this. Chan told me that we actually got the highest score of any of the 750 people that applied. And I was
Imagine
like,
that.
Chan who hooked me up with this. And I was like complaining viciously at her while I was doing this, like a stupid child. It was terrible. I was being such a dick. I'm like, this sucks. I'm terrible. I was doing it, all worried I'm going to embarrass us, and we sort of slayed it. Anyway, so we get server credits, but also AI credits, right? So like using machine learning on top of something like this could be really interesting. So anyway, the next thing. No,
let me just tell you that this has been the threat for like I don't know how many years now. Accountants, your jobs are going away because machine learning and AI and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, how come QuickBooks still can't figure out, QuickBooks, how come QuickBooks still can't figure out what any of my transactions are ever? Why?
So, I mean, it's going to be like that until it's not, right?
I think it's going to be a long, long, long time.
Maybe.
Like,
but I'm all for you accountants and lawyers getting cut back to a 20-hour work week. Like a 20-hour work week would be perfect, right? A 20-hour work week to maintain the machines that do our stuff and get the same pay. I mean, that's where we should be headed.
Because that's always worked in West.
No, but what's a 40-hour work week or a 60-hour work week?
Never what Western society has ever done. It's like, here's something to make your job easier. Well, we'll fire half the people.
Yeah, it's
okay.
Not,
I'm not any of this do everybody's job.
I'm not coming back anymore.
He's just gonna stay in Japan. So this is okay. So TC, I wanted to get to the other comment. So let me think. Build an accounting tax building in the Uplift. Click a button in game, and it scans your WAM address, then displays on screen what's owing. Now, like that is especially if nothing in your Wax account is new, so that somebody who's actually gone through the system before, like assuming that we're building the system, whatever, right? Because it's all database, right? So like if there's a new game and it's a new transaction that it's never seen before, it's not going to be able to spit out an answer. But if it's all stuff that system had seen before, right? And we're able to qualify all that stuff, that actually is possible now. Because TC actually watched the video that I did with Brad and his dev team, where they basically showed me exactly how the Uplift is going to become not only the Shopify of the metaverse, but where you can literally do DeFi transactions from within the metaverse. Just like all the fucking things are going to be possible because of what these guys are building. So yeah, like 2 days ago, I'd have said you're absolutely out of this world crazy. Down the road, maybe 2-3 years, we could figure that out. And now after talking to those guys, yeah, maybe.
Yeah, I feel like though, so the problem that most of the clients that I've worked with that have had issues is that your stuff isn't all in one place. That's the hardest piece. It's like, this wallet's reports are not anything similar to that exchange's report, but I have to compile all that information together. And God help you if you've transferred things between here and there, and your software thinks that it's income and it's not, it's just a transfer and it cannot figure it out, or you're missing because you forgot what you did in in 2019 or something like that, right? Or like, oh, COVID, you know, that year is a black hole. Nobody knows what happened. This is the challenge because nobody's all everything in one place. So
Right.
it's super, super hard to say, oh, you know, just write software. It'll do it for you. There are people who are writing that software. It's really hard. It's really expensive software.
Didn't Anders put together something for Wax, right? I think he put
even if you could, and this is where I think it's gonna start, right? So basically, like it kind of mirrors what you know I'm gonna have to go through, right? So like we have I can't remember their names, but we'll end up having them on the show. Basically, you know, they're gonna scrape the accounts much the way that Anders did from Sweden, where the fuck he's from. So he's a good friend of the show, who basically had to create this for himself and a history node and all the things, right? So, you know, he went in and got all the information, and then he had to go through line by line and you know, tell, you know, his database what these things actually were. So we're going to have to do all that stuff to get it into QuickBooks, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, that stuff is something that we can compile over time that will, you know, like with any luck, you know, if we designed it so that you know, I have to go through it, but I'm going to be helping them, you know, this scraper company to hopefully make it easier for the next person, right? So like maybe the next person can just click through and say, like, you know, they can suggest something, and if it is that, then great, or whatever, right? And then it just gets it into QuickBooks. So it's basically like you're going to be able to click something in the Uplift that would take your WAM address and render that data in a way that it's going to be easier to get into QuickBooks. Still probably not perfect because there's going to be stuff that it hasn't seen, right?
Right. Yeah.
It's funny because like Corey and I at times complain about the fact that like we can't transfer our NFT from Wax over to Ethereum or from Ethereum over to Solana, right? Like, and like you just opened my world to a whole new perspective of hardships, right? Because now you're looking at like people who like are operating on different blockchains, and you're trying to synthesize it into this one thing, and it doesn't actually exist in the crypto world. Never mind, you know, like fostering it into that, you know, legacy system. So I mean, hats off to you. Apparently you're figuring it out, but
you know, we've got like an extra layer also when you're dealing on the tax side, right? So accounting and tax are like super, super related and not exactly the same because it's different sets of rules. And on the tax side, we have this thing that I don't think exists anywhere outside of dealing with digital assets called HIFO, highest in, first out. Right? If you ever deal with inventory and other things, there's LIFO, last in, first out, FIFO, first in, first out. And here we have HIFO, highest in, first out. So if you really don't have all of your records, right, it's very, very hard to even do the tax calculations to figure out what the hell your taxable gains are. So it's like a whole nother level once you're dealing with the tax piece. It's a nightmare.
Well, I'm excited you're doing it. Now granted, like I'm gonna have to also do it. Yay, being pioneers, Jimmy. Yay.
Like I'm a little bit worried because, you know, like Japan is a different animal when it comes to
I don't even know. I know nothing about Japanese tax. I
don't
know here.
They're actually quite liberal when it comes to blockchain and cryptocurrency and adoption, and I mean the only place that they're not liberal is that they don't have a separate tax category for blockchain and crypto. They put it into miscellaneous, which is a 55% tax on it, right? Like, which is, but like in terms of not if you're not moving things from your wallets, then you're not paying taxes on them, right? Like there needs to be a transfer between crypto and real world fiat for it to be a taxable event, right? Which isn't necessarily that it's as far as I understand it. Now I'm hoping that my ignorance isn't bliss here.
That is not how it works in the US. But
it's not. It's not how it works in the US. But like we've got people on our team from Europe, we've got people on our team from America, we've got people on our team from Canada, right? Like I'm in Japan, people like, you know, in other parts of Asia. Like it's funny because like somebody mentions tax in one of our private chats, Corey, and like at least one or two people freak out. They're like, "What? I didn't know that. Like, where's this road? Like, what's happening? Is this in Tennessee? Is it like we don't know because it's not even standardized across countries, right? Which gets really confusing when we're all kind of doing the same thing. So,
but that's not just crypto. That's that's everything, because not every country has the same capital gains rules.
But like you said, in those other industries, in those legacy industries, a lot of that is done for you by the corporations, the companies that you work for. They send you the statement. It plugs very nicely into your little, form that you have to submit, right?
Yeah.
And so it's a little bit daunting for me, because like I'm moving back to Canada, and like I haven't been there in 20 years. Like I don't even know if they still have paper money there. I mean, they might have reverted to gold ingots or something. I don't know.
Yeah, it's all just loonies and toonies now. You have to carry around like backpacks of coins now. I didn't know you hadn't been there in 20 years, dude. That's crazy.
Well, I mean, I've been for a visit, but like it was short-lived, right?
Wow, that's very cool.
To Canada.
Maybe you don't want to go back to Canada. I don't know.
I mean, don't convince me. I just got through doing my paperwork. It is cold. I don't necessarily want to be there, but it's the bear market, and like we got to find somewhere to hibernate, and no better place to hibernate than the cold of Canada for the bear market, and build shit. I'm excited to see what you're gonna build. I'm excited to see what your build's gonna look like. I'm excited to see what your land's gonna look like. I'm excited to see what you're gonna do with it. Do you have any plans or ideas that you want to share with us? Any alpha that you want to drop on us? Anything that you want to give us hints on how you're going to make those little trees in the background as beautifully wavy as they are in the back?
So here's what I'll tell you. When Corey was like, "Oh, we're going to give you land," I'm like, "Great. What do I do with it?" He's like, "Build stuff." I'm like, "Great. How do you do that?" And I was like, "Wait a minute. My 12-year-old really loves Minecraft.
This is the way."
So she told me, "Wait, this is what this little stinker told me." She's like, "Well, if you pay me, I'll do it."
So here's the payer in NFTs that are redeemable for accounting. Like, you're probably not going to use these now, but I'll be around when you need.
No, I pay. I actually do pay. Okay, so here's some like tax planning in the real world. I actually, because my kids are like teenagers, I put them on my payroll because they do help. They help us with social media. They sometimes, like, if we're driving, my son will like take notes. He's a very good note taker. They do like really some random stuff. So I do put them on payroll because I opened them up all retirement accounts. And I'm like, you guys don't appreciate this now, but when you're really old, you'll probably be all set. They're like, whatever. Can we like go to the mall? I'm like, can you buy me a car? I'm like, no.
That's awesome.
You get a retirement account.
Especially this year. Like, man, get them working overtime while everything's in the dumpster. It's like the best time to double down. No, that's brilliant. So I think like the next step for you, Bette, I actually just picked out your land. You're going to be near the Uplift lawyers and near IBM actually. And near the guys from DeFi Lunch. There's a good little section of the map.
It's a little boring, not gonna lie. What's the nightlife like?
I mean, you're gonna be the nightlife. This is why I put you in there. Like, yeah, they need to.
I want a tequila bar as part of whatever is in my neighborhood.
100% happening. No, that's a really good idea. And actually, we should find you like a tequila sponsorship or whatever, and like get a way to buy a tequila NFTs in there. Anyway, so next step is to actually hang out with Jen. Jen's doing these introduction experiences where she'll kind of take you by the hand, have one of your kids there, whichever the Minecraft specialist is or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And we basically get you all the things to get in world, and we get you whitelisted on that on that plot. Get all the wax accounts and Ethereum addresses, all that kind of stuff. She's super patient and awesome at this. Gets all that stuff figured out. And
that's
then
good. I'm like the worst. Like other people's paperwork, great. My own never happens.
Yeah, she'll hold your hand, which is awesome. And then basically she'll walk you out over to your land for the first time. And then she puts up a billboard with your company logo on that, and like a different picture as well if you want. Just kind of like plant your flag a little bit. And then then you'll have some ideas, and if you want to create a tequila bar, just hire the kids, get it done. We have builders as well, but it's so much more fun if you get your kids to do it. Jimmy,
I'm under the impression that you don't give financial advice. So from a hypothetical point of view, I want to ask this question. Now, let's say that you were a CPA company that got gifted land in the Uplift world that was going to make that your metaversal business headquarters. And let's just for argument's sake say that you were going to pay someone like your children to be able to build out that build. Now, would that salary that you're paying your children potentially be a tax write-off as a company expense. I
mean, so this isn't financial advice, it's tax advice. So it's also doesn't apply unless you're already my client. But yeah, it would be a write-off.
2 caveats instead of 1.
But I mean, look, there's a lot of rules. You can't just like pay people, right? Like payroll is a big pain in the butt. So you gotta like follow the rules, but then yes, it's a deduction.
I mean, that's really interesting, right? Because like somewhere that we don't have rules that are really defined around is the metaverse space, right? That space beyond.
Well, I mean, theoretically, what's the value of the land, right? Like I might have a taxable event of getting income, getting a digital asset.
So it's going to be airdropped to you. So I don't think it's a taxable event until you sell it.
Possible. Or at least it's got no cost basis.
Right. Well, and it won't, because we're going to be sending these out before we put them up on auction. So there will have been no land sold on Ethereum yet at all. So
there you go.
That's fun. Boom. Nailed it.
When I have to sell my practice, do I sell that with it? Like, do I have to add that to the asset list? I don't know.
You probably should. I mean, like, so here's the thing: we're gonna whitelist everybody in advance, right? Because we haven't minted the NFTs yet. Before we do the auctions, we're actually going to be minting the NFTs and giving them to all the primers, so all the project runners, right? And they'll be worth like a couple $100 or whatever. But unless it's the very first metaverse headquarters of the Bette Hochberger CPA organization of Doom. I don't know why Doom. Yeah. You should definitely write that into your tagline. Also, I'm very bad at taglines. But down the road, that's going to be worth trillions of dollars. So
trillions.
Good to
trillions. I'm not working at that point, to be honest.
No, I mean you're just lording over the $1 trillion empire.
The tequila bar.
What happens when people start selling their real life businesses because their metaverse land value is higher than they could have ever imagined, and they're tied to those real life businesses, right? This is some interesting things that probably won't happen, but I mean, it might. I'm gonna tie my shit to my business.
That's the thing. Like, what if you tie the entire ownership of the business to that piece of land, so they were inextricably linked? Don't do it. Yeah.
And then you set up apartment buildings that I don't know have.
Okay, that's weird.
Rewards that go out to certain people who set up shop in those apartments. I mean, sorry, I'm going to stop talking before I get in some trouble.
I thought I was making it weird, but really I was just setting Jimmy up to make it weird. Apartments will be a thing though. Like there's enough land area to basically build a skyscraper on this, piece of property. And that's what most people are doing. They're building towers, so that you have.
I've always wanted to be a landlord.
Right. So yeah, you have galleries or whatever. So what you could conceivably do is make I don't know, 10, 20 floors, whatever you wanted to do, and then tell
on the top floor it's okay.
Right? Yeah, the tequila bar on the top, obviously. And then every single floor, you basically just tell your best clients, like, hey, if you want presence in my office building, like we'll throw you up a little logo for the low price of like, I don't know, 30, 40 grand a year. I'm also really bad at pricing things.
I was like, is this financial advice? Because
it's business advice. I'm like, you're gonna have this asset. It's gonna be fun, and you can basically sell real estate for billboards.
Hey,
I mean, the idea
I'm saying this as a joke, but people are already doing that. Like that's a thing that's gonna happen. So that's kind of fun.
The idea of revenue share is fascinating. The only thing that's more fascinating about the idea of revenue share is how to get revenue share in the real world, in my opinion. Is that what makes us degens? Maybe I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, we're so used to that in this space now, like that we just kind of default to that.
Yeah, imagine if people came while we're walking around the real world and complaining like people do in the crypto space. Damn it, I bought shoes and they're not paying me to wear them anymore. What? It happens, right? Like you give somebody something for free and they just keep knocking at your door, it's like feeding a freaking homeless cat. You do it once and they just keep coming back and asking for more and more and more and more. Like, it's just like, just take what you got that was free and figure out a way to go and make the money yourself. You don't have to keep coming back and asking for more free shit. If you squandered your free shit, we're not going to give you more free shit. I really, really, really like in my own space right now, and I'm kind of enjoying it.
We know.
But I don't know how to interact with the real world anymore because people don't give me shit for free. And it's like I walk into a convenience store, a supermarket, and I like, get a free sample, and then I want another free sample, and then the police show up. This is not real, but like,
this is also not financial advice.
This is the weird like space that we live in, right?
Advice.
And so I'm just kind of curious. You must have like I'm always going somewhere. Corey knows this, but you must have some clearly insane clients in the crypto space that like just can't wrap their minds around the fact that like what you're telling them is the truth, or do they all just trust you, with their lives because they're there in the first place, right? Like I'm kind of curious. You must have at least one or two horror stories where people are just like, you're pulling my leg, you're lying to me. There's no way. Like they just don't get it.
So the thing that I've actually been loving about my crypto business clients is that they show up and they're like, we know what we're doing and we're doing cool stuff. The stuff that you need to handle, we don't know anything about it. So please just do it.
I resemble this comment.
Yeah, but you're not the only one. And it's funny because, like we work with a lot of professionals. So not so many doctors anymore. They tend to have jobs, not open practices, but like dentists, alternative medicine, attorneys, and they all think they already know everything, right? They like, I understand taxes, I understand accounting, I'm just gonna do it myself, blah blah blah. And like the reality is, maybe some a little bit understand. Most are wrong. Most don't actually know what they're doing. That's a whole another discussion. But in the tech space, we don't tend to get that same reaction. They're usually like, we're going to build the thing. You make us not go to jail.
It's funny to me now. Like it's really funny because I wonder if the reason that doctors think that they understand taxes is because their offices are filled with patients that think that they understand medicine. Yeah, I read on the internet that like
WebMD, right? Like everyone has cancer, so I can do taxes.
Like at the end of the day, my eyes have been getting blurry, so I googled that. Like, oh, I'm having a stroke right now. Like, what? Come on now.
That's called eye strain.
Right? Yeah, it's yep. That's what it is. Just don't WebMD it because it goes badly. Yeah, you'll be in the ER half an hour later. All right, hey, listen. I gotta. How's your day, Jimmy? Exciting, apparently. That we're gonna have you back as soon as possible. I'm gonna hook you up with Jen. We're gonna get you guys on your land. I want a party. Well, we have been doing happy hours, so we basically like meet somewhere in world.
I love happy hour.
Yeah, and so yeah, we basically meet on a Twitter Spaces for the audio, and we meet in world. It turns into this big,
Wait, Corey, are you from Florida, like originally?
No, I'm originally from the Canadian Arctic.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say because my husband grew up here, and he was like really shocked to know that happy hour isn't all day everywhere. He's like, do you know that there's some places that have sad hours? I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, it's not always happy hour. It took me a while to understand what he was getting at, but
that's funny.
I didn't know that happy hour was all day in Florida. What the hell am I moving to Canada?
I mean, it is like every once in a while they'll have a happy hour, but it's just like, ha ha ha.
Like
also, the
6
rest
hours
of
long or something.
Yeah,
or
it's like
Drunken Taco in Fort Lauderdale all day. It's always happy hour.
That sounds familiar. Yeah, I mean, I think I've been in Florida long enough that I'm almost a sort of
almost native,
honorary native.
I've been here since 2004, so
right around the same. I
identify as a native.
Yeah, that checks out. That checks out. Yeah, the last time I went back to Canada, I almost froze to death. So
I believe it.
And it was August.
Yeah, exactly. Oh man. One of the other things I want to do, Bette, like, other than the happy hour, so my whole point was when we get your build done, I think we should tell everyone they have to buy a bottle of tequila, meet us on Twitter Spaces, and then we'll all meet in world at your tequila bar and just see where that goes. Chances are, an hour later, we're all going to be ranting like Jimmy, and it's going to be a good time. Anyway, so that stuff's gonna be good. One of the things I've been putting into our kind of partner projects heads is I want to start doing some panel shows because there's so many freaking amazing projects now that are in this. So we're gonna end up having 100 projects that are connected to this little thing that we're doing, and they all need to meet you. And you need to meet some of them and stuff. So we're gonna do a bunch of
Cool.
cross pollination shit just to make it all one big happy family.
One big happy dysfunctional degenerate family.
100%. Highly functional, but yes, degenerate family.
High functioning, I think is what
high functioning. That's better. Yes, especially considering like anyone where you show up, we're gonna have to tell anyone to buy tequila first, and then that's like.
Those are my best clients, by the way, are the ones where like randomly bottles of tequila show up. I'm like, oh, I love them.
Noted. All right, Jimmy, write that down.
Write it down.
Awesome. All right, guys, I gotta run. Bette, thank you so much for joining us, man. We're gonna have you back.
Thank you. This was awesome.
Right. We'll be back tomorrow with Yoshi. I'll be back in about 12 hours with Brad Music NFTs. I don't really know what he's doing, but he's doing some cool stuff with the music industry in NFTs on Wax and other places. So, yeah.
That's cool.
Set your timers. Come join us, and we'll see you guys very soon. It was lovely to meet you, Bette. Yeah. I look forward to the next one. And, well, Corey, as always, you just, stay beautiful because that's why we love you.